Welcome back, you filthy exiles. So I thought I'd do something a little different. I thought we'd make a really quick state of the league sort of video. Now we're in week 5, obviously, and yeah, some interesting things are happening. But anyway, we'll do a quick rundown: player count, Twitch numbers. I was thinking major currency movements over 100C on the currency market. There's definitely been some big shifts and some interesting things worth farming. And then beyond that, top 5 Ascendencies being played and the particular build within those 5 Ascendencies. And overall, we'll just cover off on a quick brief of the stability of the league. Hint, hint, I think it's going pretty well. Anyway, let's delve into the video and have a chat about that. Okay, so the first thing that we'll take note of here is based on Steam charts. There is definitely a significant improvement on the previous league, Necropolis, compared to the Calendar League, which we're currently in. So basically, we're looking at all-time 24-hour peak as at the 5th week of league. I believe we're in at 68,000, which is pretty damn good. Playing currently of the last hour, and this is as of the 28th of the 8th, 2024, was 35.8 thousand. Now, what we can see in the May and the June numbers, or even the April, May, June numbers, is the previous league was just totally lackluster compared to the current league that we're in. And what we're seeing is a more consistent and long drawn out sort of enhancement in the number of players month on month. Even though we're into the second month of the league at the current juncture, it doesn't seem to be any real slowdown point, which is a really good sign that the changes to melee, as well as all the new additional content with the city building and all the rest of it, have actually pulled in the player base and or attracted players back to the game, which is a pretty good position for Path of Exile to be in, especially leading into the fact that, we're looking at Path of Exile 2 potentially, well, Path of Exile 2 now confirmed is coming out in open beta on the 15th of November. So what that means is this is a really good position from a player base level for Path of Exile to transition into Path of Exile 2. And the other question here is, what will they do as far as league goes when Path of Exile 2's open beta comes out? Will it be another league gets announced at the same time? It's very unlikely because they're going to want to give people the opportunity to play PoE 2 without worrying about PoE 1 and being behind the 8 ball. So it'll be really interesting to see how the player numbers sort of shift over the coming months, especially with the lead up to PoE 2. The other thing that we may actually also see is that the player base will actually increase and the player numbers may actually go back up the closer to the PoE 2 release date. And this will be potentially people coming back to the game and, blowing off the rust. Or potentially people getting excited and wanting to experience the first game. So what we might actually see for the first time ever is a player base increase in the months leading up, or the months preceding, many months preceding the league launch, which for 3.25 is looking good. We actually may see player numbers increase over the next 2 months. Leading into November, but it's anyone's guess at this stage. I sort of suspect that might be the case. But it's definitely very good, and it's significantly more fun with more players playing, and it's a lot easier to trade. More players means the trade market stays a lot more stable for a lot longer as well, which is what we're also observing with the new currency exchange system. But yeah, overall, player numbers are really strong, and hopefully they keep ticking up. And yeah, it looks like Path of Exile is really starting to pull its weight in the ARPG market right now. Now, as far as the interest of the player base on Twitch, we're still looking at 11.3 thousand people tuning in to the Path of Exile Twitch channels and whatnot, which is really good to see because it means there's tons of people still interested in playing and engaging, and these numbers haven't really dropped as significantly as what they did in the last league, and so yeah, there's a really strong following of people still very interested in the game, which is good to see, and that'll probably enhance over the next month or 2 months as we sort of start to step more into the Path of Exile 2 hype sort of ladder that we're going to be working through. But anyway, Twitch is still going strong with Path of Exile as well, so no real drop off on that front either. Okay, so just on the currency market front, so we've got a 20% drop in the price of Mirrors of Calandra. Obviously, I've seen a lot more mirrors coming in, especially with the league mechanic with shipping. Hinakora's lock is down 11%, but we're talking absolutely enormous numbers here. Mirror shards are down by 14% as well. This could be a symptom of them becoming a little more common just with some of the currency strats that are going on for this league. Veiled orbs are at 1.5 K chaos, so they're saying it's down 11%, but it seems to be an upward swing, Reflecting Miss, again, they're up by 25%. Fracturing Orbs down by 10%. Tainted Divine Teardrops up by 26%. Awakener Orbs, I believe there was something going on with a build that was using this, which has absolutely throttled the price up. So if you are interested in farming Cyrus, this would be a really good way to make bank off farming Cyrus or Uber Cyrus. Beyond that, Orbs of Dominus, which drop from Maven encounters, they're up by 2%, so 381 Chaos. For some odd reason, Hunter Exalted Orbs are trading at 351 when compared to every other type of Exalted Orb, which is at 229 neat, or on an average. So that while they are up by 35%, Hunter's Exalts are sort of standing out. So there's definitely something going on. Most likely that's because of the number of bleed builds that are going on that use Dot. Tailoring Orbs as well, they're up by 44%. And then we get down to the Blessing of Chayula, which is at 183 Chaos, and Divines are sitting comfortably at 152 Chaos, and they've dropped in price as well by 10%. Orbs of Conflict are up by 25%, around 137, and then we've got our Blessings, which are sitting at 100C, which is really interesting because it means that Breach could potentially be a farming mechanic that might be worth your time. And there's definitely something going on with this because these are all going up, by an average of about 40%. Not taking into account extreme outliers, but basically, your blessings are all going up in price, which alludes to the fact that something is trading that's coming out of Breach, and it's not just the blessings, but if the blessings are going up, there's a drop that's potentially going up that the blessings are used on, which could allude to something worth looking into and identifying whether or not there is a target unique coming from that mechanic that might be worth your time in farming Breach for. Okay, so just from a quick cursory look of the different builds that are currently in meta, I've sort of went through the top 5 Ascendencies, which currently are the Slayer at 17%, Trickster at 15%, Hierophant at 13% of all players, Chieftain at 9%, and the Juggernaut at 8%. Interestingly, Gladiator has slipped down to 7% with Warden at 6%, but still they're very strong builds that sit within those categories, but they're not quite in the top 5 just at this stage. Now, for the Slayer, obviously Lightning Strike is the most popular build, period, for this Ascendancy. Closely followed by Frostblades of Catabasis, and then Flicker Strike, and then various other builds that sort of go through. Interestingly, Cyclone's up there, but that could just be because it's appended to other skills. But if that is the case, then Cyclone might be making its way back. But overall, definitely Lightning Strike was just a ridiculous skill this league, and is being totally abused on the Slayer, which is good to see because it is a very good skill. Now, for the Trickster, it's Hex Blast, Lightning Strike, and funnily enough, things like Splitting Steel and Flicker Strike. And basically, most of these builds are using Ephemeral Edge setup with Energy Shield stacking, and they're getting to ridiculous levels of immortality as a result of that. Trickster, again, for this league is just one of the best builds as far as from a tankability standpoint. You can deep delve with it, you can take it through to Ubers. It's just really lucrative and in a really strong spot so far as to date, until maybe something else comes out later in the league that's a little more wild and a little more crazy. But it's good to see the Trickster still on top in the number 2 position. Okay, so the next one is the Hierophant. There's basically only one build being played on this overall, aside from some other minor offset builds, but Ice Nova or Frostbolts, which is essentially an AFK build. So it is very strong in the community that we do like our AFK builds. So it'll be interesting to see Path of Exile 2 and the position it takes on this sort of thing. But this is a extremely dominant build and also really easy build once you get it started and working really well. But that's the third Ascendancy that's currently dominating the meta breakdown currently in builds. Okay, so the fourth Ascendancy that's currently on top is the Chieftain. Now, with the changes to things like armor and defense, we've started using a lot more petrified blood-based builds and blood magic builds as a result. And interestingly, things like autocast Firestorm is like 4%. Fire Trap and RF obviously dominate on the Chieftain because it is one of the best Ascendancies to play RF on still to this day. And Detonate Dead of Scavenging is definitely up there, as well as Cremation as well. Basically, many of these builds are either stand idle and let the build do the damage builds, and or just auto cast when stun builds. And the reason being is a lot of the time they're using these builds to farm either 1000 depth delve, or to take on ultimatums, and you just basically AFK ultimatums and whatnot, or ritual farming as well. But overall is still one of the most dominant ascendancies because it is very easy to overcap all resistances and deal with a lot of the elemental damage in the game, where things like the Jug and things like that have been hamstrung this league just a little bit with the changes to things like Unbreakable. But overall, I've got a AFK Castman Stun build, and it's probably one of the most fun builds I've played in a number of leagues. But yeah, number 4 on the list. Okay, so the final ascendancy is obviously the Juggernaut, and this is as a result solely because of Molten Strike of Zenith. It basically just dominates from a strength stacking chaos on hit conversion build. The build is expensive to get maxed out, and you will need to put some mirrors into it, and obviously that was worth it for a lot of players. It is a really solid build, and probably one of the most intricate builds I've seen in a very long time. Super strong in Delve. Steve is, again, I believe, running with this, but he's since changed his build up a little more. But yeah, there's a ton of people playing it. Obviously, it's just a great meta pick for the league, but it will set you back a bit of currency to get it working. Some people have reported having a few issues with it, but it is one of those things where the more you invest into it, the better it's going to get, and you're going to hit some pretty crazy numbers on the DPS scale, and it is extremely tanky as well. But yeah, this is the 5th build in the list of builds that are in the top 5 currently in the 5th week of League. Okay, so as an overall summary of what I think of the league, and based on talking to the community and whatnot, it's 2 thumbs up. It's a good league, solid league. It's all that needs to be said. The gold changes were really good. It's actually really enjoyable to basically play and farm gold mechanics and get outcomes of that. The inclusion of things like shipping, auto mapping, all that sort of stuff, being able to level your town up, it makes it a hell of a lot more fun. You'd think like that would distract from the main game, but it actually gives you an alternate route to farming, so you can go down and delve and have your mappers auto map for you, which I think is a really good feature, and people are making a lot of currency out of that too. Things like Ultimatum are in a good spot, Ritual's in a good spot, Blight's fun. Delve, still pushing down in Delve, it's a lot of fun. There's still plenty of players playing Delve, and the market has improved, and I'll do a video on that tomorrow night, talking about what to farm out of Delve and how to make currency. There are things like certain divination cards for All's Uprisings that aren't great though, but it is what it is. Outside of that, overall, as a strong player base, it's easy to make currency with the currency exchange too, so basically you can auto flip, or you can just flip everything as soon as you make it, so you can make liquid currency to be able to fund your builds and get things working really quickly. And again, the currency exchange was a really good inclusion into the game, and with some more improvements, that's going to be a great mechanic in both Path of Exile 1, hopefully if it continues. Fingers crossed that it continues. And then basically, you know, moving into Path of Exile 2, I think they made the right choices with it and the way that it's been delivered. Overall, like not being able to trade items in a currency exchange market, like an auto window, I think is probably the right decision to make. Otherwise, it'll just become overly complicated. Thinking as an example, Last Epoch is really clunky, and while it's a cool concept, it doesn't really work very well. But the way that's been done in this circumstance is perfectly fine. Like, you're still always going to have that issue with having to hit the trade button on a bunch of things and hope to God somebody's going to respond to you, but I don't know how you do that efficiently unless you add like a whole new UI or whatnot. And you know, we might see something totally different in Path of Exile 2. But if things stay like how they are in Path of Exile 1, I'm perfectly happy, and I think most people are perfectly happy to accept that, because it's a huge improvement on how we used to trade previously. Overall, though, I think the position of where T17s are and the changes they've made in some of the post patches during the league have been really good. And T17s are in a nice spot where it's achievable, it's doable. It's not this thing in the near distant future where you're probably never going to fully achieve it. I think where it currently is with the mod roles that you can get onto it and things like that, where they don't sort of coalesce with too many difficult mods at the same time, makes it achievable to farm T17s now for, you know, a larger portion of the player base, which is good. So the other thing is the melee changes were fantastic. Obviously, it's really good to see melee sort of get back up into a really good spot. Spellcasters are still really strong as well. There's like a good equal blend across the board, and obviously the changes to things like Warden have been some welcome improvements to the game. But overall, I'm really happy with the game after playing for, what, 11 years, 12 years we're up to, something like that. I think it's something like that. I think this is probably the best position PoE's been in a very long time. Definitely since like 3.15 League, which funnily enough was when they made all the changes to defenses and brick melee and sort of whatnot. And they've sort of reverted back to previous that change, or prior to that change, and the game is in a really good state. And hopefully it just continues to improve from this point onwards. But that's my my sort of recap from a more casual, I guess, player and whatnot. But yeah, overall, great league. Really happy with it. I think most people are too as well. Okay, so if you like videos like this, let me know in the description or the comments below, sorry. I'm trying out some different stuff and formats and things like that, so I thought this would be like a really good video just as a bit of a recap. And I was trying to do like series with itemization and stuff like that. I've just obviously been working away, so I haven't had as much time as I usually would. But if people want to see this more consistently, maybe we do this video like every second week or something like that. Let me know below if you like this sort of stuff. But anyway, drop me a like, drop me a sub, usual stuff. Don't forget to follow the Twitch. I'll be online a little bit later on. I've got to go hit the gym after I finish recording and upload this though. And I will see you guys later. Have a good one.